Today we're going to share 5 tips with you that will help you manage and regulate your heart rate to keep your heart rate low. If you've been around Coach Parry for a while and maybe checked out a couple of our videos, you'll know that we really drive home this point of keeping your easy runs easy enough. And heart rate is a very good tool to be able to measure that intensity. I'm going to hand over to Lindsey to talk about the first tip on keeping that heart rate down.
We often get runners pushing back and saying, oh, I don't know how to run my easy runs easier. And essentially, to get your easy runs easier, we want to get your heart rate down. And one of the most effective ways of controlling that intensity and keeping your heart rate down is to incorporate walk breaks into your runs. The very first question we get as soon as we talk about walk breaks is how long and how many. At Coach Parry, we use 2 sliding scales to decide how often and how long people should work for. And those scales are one on age, where we start with younger runners on the one end and older runners on the other end. And then the second scale we use is faster runners on the one end and slower runners on the other end. And when we look at an individual, the younger and or faster a runner is, the less frequently they will walk. And we recommend 60 to 90 second walk breaks every 6 miles or 9 kilometers. Now I know mathematically those don't tie up, but that just makes it very easy to use a GPS device to decide. If you're on the faster end of the spectrum or on the younger end of the spectrum, you're going to walk less frequently, probably looking at every 6 miles to 9 kilometers. And on the other side of the spectrum, for the older runners and all the slower runners, you're going to walk more frequently. And there we look at roughly every 2 miles to 3 kilometers, a 60 to 90 second walk.
Another way of keeping your heart rate down is something we use here at Coach Parry that we refer to as the talk test. If you're able to run and keep a robust conversation, that means breathing quite easily, talking, arguing, joking around with someone else, that's a really good way of making sure you are running easy enough and that heart rate is nice and low. A very easy way of doing that is to be running in a group. Now I do want to just caution you, there could be a trap. It is a bit of a double-edged sword. Running in a group, as much as it's really motivating and there's a social aspect to it, we can fall into the trap that we're running with someone or in a group that might be a little bit quicker or more advanced than us, so we tend to find ourselves being pulled along. The problem there, and when I refer to that talk test, is if someone's having a big conversation in the group and you're struggling to gasp for air and you can't add much value to the conversation, it's a really good indicator that your effort and your intensity then is too high and you're pushing a little bit too hard. You will generally, if you had to look at your heart rate monitor, your heart rate will be creeping up at that point. Ideally, and I'm going to joke about this, you want to find some new friends. You want to almost look at running in a group that might be a little bit slower than you are. That'll really force you down, force you slower, get that heart rate nice and low, and then being new friends in your group, you can have a new conversation, get to meet people, get to know everyone, and that talk test where you're having that really robust conversation, that heart rate stays nice and low, and you will feel the benefits and the difference of those easy runs.
One of the best skills that you can teach yourself as a runner is learning how to feel intensity. And that's across the whole spectrum. Because once you learn what specific intensities, paces and efforts feel like, your pacing will get much better, very importantly for your easy runs, but it'll have a knock-on effect into races and letting you know exactly how to feel the speed that you need to run at or can sustain, most importantly, for the duration of the race that you are going for. Now, with the advent of GPS technology, heart rate monitors and so on, it's become harder and harder for humans and runners to know what a particular intensity feels like. As a kid growing up, I would do a run with my dad. He would tell me how far we'd run, and over the course of the next 10 to 15 years, I could literally tell you when I got home from a run exactly how far I'd run. And at university, guys used to take bets with me and we'd jump in the car and I'd never be more than a couple of 100 meters out. But having relied on a GPS device for more than a decade, I have lost some of that ability. And I think if you can use your GPS device initially, or heart rate monitor initially, to really guide you to get into the right place for the particular workout that you've got designed. But then once you're in the right place, to really concentrate on what you're feeling, how you're breathing, because those are the markers that are going to teach you in future to really learn to feel what a workout is supposed to feel like. And then when you read through the description of a workout and a plan, gives you a much better idea of how you're going to approach the next workout. We've spoken about over-reliance on devices and how important it can be to learn how to feel your runs. But the reality is that at the beginning, they are very important tools, and particularly accurate heart rate measurements. You need to use your device to make sure that you are keeping your heart rate low enough. At the beginning, unfortunately for most people, that means going a lot slower than you would like to go. And one of the keys to getting this right and learning how to get your heart rate lower during your training sessions is to be patient. The important thing here is that if you are patient, you teach yourself to run at that lower heart rate and therefore intensity, over time your pace will increase and you should get quite close to the pace that you're accustomed to running at on easy runs with a much lower heart rate, which means that you are stimulating the right energy system.
If you found value in this video, I really do urge you to put these tips into practice. You are going to see huge benefits and a huge difference to your training. If you're interested in getting a little bit more information on how heart rate and how this particular strategy can be implemented and improve your running, check the video on screen now for a video that we have done on heart rate particular training.